The Tales of franchise has consistently been releasing quality titles for the past 2 decades, and they have all been met with critical acclaim by both fans and critics alike. Players praise the franchise's signature real-time combat and its well-rounded characters, but many have felt like the production values for the franchise have been a little behind the times upon release. The developers have listened intently to criticism of their entries and decided to take time off and return to the drawing boards to make sure that their latest title receives the quality upgrades and love and care that fans have been waiting for. After several years of absence from the scene, Tales of Arise has finally been released, and it is already turning a lot of heads with its stunning new graphics and art direction. This new game in the series marks a triumphant return to form and expertly introduces new, quality mechanics to make this entry appear to be the most significant return for the franchise to date. In this review of the game, I am going to be discussing why Tales of Arise demands your attention this holiday season, and why fans of JRPGs and RPGs in general should go out and support this game. Before I start with Tales of Arise, I need to preface this by saying I am not, by any means, the most experienced Tales player. I have completed only 2 Tales games, one being Tales of Legendia, which came out on the PS2 in, I believe, 2006, and also Tales of Exilia, which came out in 2013 in North America. There have been numerous Tales games that I have dabbled with over the years, but have not completed, namely being Tales of Symphonia and Tales of Berseria. Although I never finished those games, I do remember them fondly for their chaotic battles and likable cast of characters. For those not familiar with the Tales franchise, they are a series of Japanese role-playing games that have existed for at least a few decades and are often lauded for their real-time combat, immersive stories, and eclectic cast of characters. The series has its trademark anime and cartoon-like graphics to them that have definitely withstood the entirety of the franchise. This review will be mostly spoiler-free, never mentioning any key story happenings after the first area, but I will be discussing some of the earlier moments in the game and its characters to give you an idea of what you're in for. Tales of Arise puts you immediately into the thick of things as you meet the protagonist of the story, nicknamed Iron Mask, in Calaglia, a flame-infested wasteland. Iron Mask is from the planet Dana, and as a Danan, he is a slave who serves people from the neighboring planet, Rena. See, 300 years ago, the Renans appeared in Dana with their advanced technology, and have staged a presence in Dana for 3 centuries, draining the life energy, known as astral energy, from Dana to further Renan prosperity. Dana, a once peaceful world, has had its people taken advantage of and turned into slaves to appease the genetically superior race of humans, Renans. In each of the 5 distinct and varied landmasses of Dana, a Renan lord reigns, who has complete control of all Danans and Renans that work under them. Getting back to Iron Mask, he is a Danan slave who has no recollection of his past, and it is immediately apparent that Iron Mask, as well as other fellow inhabitants of his world, are all slaves living horrible lives under their Renan leaders. The first few hours of the game shows the absolute oppression of the Danan people and how incredibly powerless and dire their lives are. Any hint of rebellious behavior by the Danans, and they are seen tortured and even killed by their Renan leaders. Why not fight back? You see, Renans are able to wield astral arts, which are, just think of it as magic, and their powerful arts and spells are much too strong for most Danans to fight through. So most Danans accept their place in life and try not to do anything too dramatic as to potentially lead to their demise. Iron Mask is a very mysterious and intriguing character from the get-go. He is a Danan slave who has no recollection of his past, and unlike other Danans, he has this immovable iron mask over his head and has absolutely no idea why it's there. Interestingly enough, though, even though the mask covers the entirety of his head, he is still able to eat and drink out of it thanks to the power of video games. Woohoo! Even more, he somehow cannot feel pain, resulting in our protagonist unable to feel his punishment from the Renans. This is a massive red flag because even though he cannot feel pain, that doesn't mean his body is immune to death. Iron Mask frequently visits his local doctor in Calaglia to make sure he doesn't push his body to his limits. A lot of trailers have revealed that he has a full name, named Alphen, and that he appears with and without a mask. I won't go any further into any details surrounding Alphen, as the narrative does a great job of slowly revealing bits of information about the character bit by bit. After some brief exposition in the first hour or so, we meet our second character, Xion, an equally mysterious woman from Rena who creates all sorts of chaos in Calaglia.
You're wrong.
The player quickly learns that Xion is quite dangerous, as anyone she touches gets severely hurt due to her thorns, a thorn-like veil that appears over her body as she comes to contact with other people and creatures. Meeting up with Alphen, Xion appears to despise the Renan lords and embarks on a quest with Alphen and his allies as they raise a resistance to take down the Renan lords in each of the game's 5 distinct landmasses on Dana. Without giving away much of the rest of the plot, Xion and Alphen meet several new characters along the way as they forge ahead, targeting the Renan lords. What makes this story so great is the humanity represented in the entire cast. The voice actors expertly display the desperation in each of the characters as they all experience their hardships individually and more often as a group. This is a diverse cast of adults and teenagers that comprises many walks of lives, and each of them bring their own baggage and personal demons with them.
I know all too well the hardships the slaves of this realm had to endure. That's why I took up the sword. To help them.
How they work through each of their kinks and flaws, and how they embrace change is where the true excellence in the writing is revealed. Characters frequently banter with each other off the battlefield, resulting in organic storytelling without the intrusion of cutscenes. To add even more embellishment to an already excellent story, series staple skits mark their return and are fully voiced. When prompted, an icon will appear at the bottom of the screen, letting the player know that there is a new skit to view. When engaged, comic book-like vignettes appear as the characters discuss a wide variety of things pertaining to the story, their immediate surroundings, battle occurrences, and so much more. There are more than 300 of the skits in the game, with each one lasting generally over a minute to even several minutes, providing hours upon hours of more context to each of the characters, their relationships with one another, and to the world around them. So much attention to detail was poured into the story and its characters, and it is a thrill to see so much love poured into the skits, as these provide hours of completely optional but compelling story content. Upon starting up the game, players will immediately be greeted with the new graphics and art direction to the game. This is the most significant upgrade to the franchise that longtime players of the series will see, and it is absolutely gorgeous. The new art direction maintains its iconic anime aesthetic with its character designs and further expands to its world design as Tales of Arise's landscapes are beautifully rendered in a more realistic appearance. Up close, environments appear more realistic and less cartoonish, but in the distance, the player is greeted with an almost watercolor-like aesthetic to the environments that is incredibly unique and complements the characters and NPCs masterfully. The colors are bright and vibrant, and with HDR enabled, the colors really pop, creating visual eye candy that makes it difficult to not take in the beauty of the game world. On the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC, there is an abundance of beautiful particle effects that dance on the screen. Whether from the yellow and red ashes of Calaglia weaving into the sky from a massive lava pit, or the magical arts that Xion employs on the battlefield, the particle animations are top-notch in this title. As beautiful as the new game world is, there is a lot of pop-in that occurs while traversing the environments. Grass, trees, NPCs, and enemies all appear once the player gets close enough to them, and although I didn't mind the amount of pop-in present, it is a big talking point about this title's shortcomings. With all the advancements in the graphics department that Arise has been given, it is unfortunate that excessive pop-in is present in this title, but it by no means breaks the immersion too greatly. Let's hope that the Tales team works to remedy this in a future update and in future Tales installments. Perhaps the series' most celebrated aspect is its fluid and frenetic combat system. In Tales of Arise, the player takes direct control of the character in battle, and can switch between party members via the battle menu with ease. While in battle, players may unleash a flurry of attacks and arts, which contain magic or skills. Arts may be used as often as the player wants, however, use enough of them and the player will have to wait for the arts meter to fill up before using them any further. The arts bar is the blue diamond-like collection above the character's health bar. Certain arts require the use of only one diamond. However, some of the more powerful ones can use more. It is a balancing act of when to use your arts in conjunction with your standard attacks. Just remember, your arts bar has a cooldown mechanic, meaning after not using arts for a few seconds, your arts bar will refill, however, slowly. Standard attacks and arts can be performed both on the ground and while in the air, allowing your player-controlled character and party members to juggle enemies in the air, linking attacks together to quickly take out foes. Boost attacks are learned very early in the game, which is a character's signature attack, and are essential to extending combos. These boost attacks are character specific, meaning no two characters have the same boost attack, and each of them has their own tactical benefit, like interrupting an enemy's arts, knocking down highly evasive enemies, dealing significant damage to airborne enemies, and more. Early on in the story, the player will learn how to use boost strikes, a signature attack performed by two characters. These boost strikes are very devastating and more often than not completely wipe out enemies' health bars and deal massive damage to stronger enemies and bosses. Boost strikes can be engaged when enough sustained damage has been landed on an enemy, completing the boost strike gauge. Be aware that this damage must be sustained and chained into long combos, as the second your slew of attacks end, the boost attack gauge will reset. The key to ending battles early is to appropriately use your attacks and arts together, as well as each character's boost attack to build up an enemy's boost strike meter before finishing them off with the boost strike. Just know that if you choose to use the same art over and over again in that battle, it will lose its proficiency and start dealing less damage as it usually does. So a mixture of attacks with a variety of arts is the best way to be most effective of whittling down an enemy's health bar. By using certain arts over a series of battles, characters will unlock new arts to use that can be equipped in the ability screen in the menu.
Look sharp! Lightning Tiger Blade!
There are even more types of attacks that your party learns throughout the game that are incredibly beneficial and can change the tide of battle, but I'll leave those discoveries to you. Does Tales of Arise look like something you're interested in playing this holiday season? You got my word that it's an excellent game. Now, please do me a quick favor and like this video and subscribe so that you can look forward to more in-depth reviews of the hottest games of the year. Thanks a bunch for your support. Every party member controls quite differently from one another and complements each other very well. Alphen is great at dishing out heavy damage with his swift sword strikes, and Xion is excellent at dishing out damage from a distance. The other party members each have their own strengths and weaknesses as well, and a lot of the fun with this game is to experiment with each of the characters as you try to maximize your party's battle prowess. Healing arts are used by tapping into a shared pool of magic, called Cure Points, or CP for short. Characters that have healing arts may use a variety of healing spells that depletes your CP, which is shared across all party members. CP may be refilled bit by bit under certain battle conditions and can also be replenished by sleeping at an inn, finding healing spots on the field, or using items that restore CP. CP can also be used outside of battle to heal party members and heal injured NPCs on the field, which in turn, for your generosity, will reward the player with some sweet loot. In addition, CP can also be used to remove certain obstacles in an area to progress to hidden areas on a map that can often reward players with rare items and equipment. Always make sure to keep your eye on your cure points, as to make sure that you never run out of healing magic while on your adventures. In battle, the enemies you face will have certain weaknesses, and exploiting them is key to ending battles faster, which nets the player with battle bonuses, including extra experience points, gold, which is the game's currency, some CP, and skill points. Speaking of skill points, these points are your main resource to expend on upgrading certain stat parameters for your characters and unlocking new arts for each of your characters. As you earn more and more skill points in the game, make sure to visit your skill trees to spend your hard-earned points on character upgrades and new moves. Each upgrade is presented as a node in a circle. By spending the allotted points, you unlock all the benefits that node has to offer, including new arts for your characters or stat upgrades. When all of the nodes in a circle have been unlocked, you will receive a massive stat bonus, indicated by highlighting the middle of each of the circles. I found myself prioritizing filling out each of the circles early in the game to reap the stat rewards. But the beauty of the progression in this game is that you have the choice to spend your points on whatever you want, whether that's prioritizing stat boosts or extra arts. More circles in the skill tree can be unlocked automatically through story progression, as well as through using certain amounts of arts and also enhancing the bonds of each of your characters. Character growth is integral to the story in Tales of Arise, both in its narrative and also in unlocking further gameplay options to increasing their value in combat. In numerous areas on the playing field, Alphen and his crew will come across campfires where your squad can relax, often reflecting on events happening in the game. During a campfire, the player may engage in skits and can cook certain recipes to temporarily enhance stats, the probability of collecting rare resources in the game world, or enhance the experience points earned after battle, among other things. Several hours into the story, the player will unlock the ability to raise animals at a farm. Here, players can choose to raise a variety of farm animals like chickens, cows, and even more to earn more meats to aid in cooking recipes. Some of these recipes that require meats are among the best in the game, and often reward the player with EXP bonuses and rare items from battles. By cooking and sharing meals together as a party, this allows Alphen to engage with other members of his squad, furthering their personal relationships. These scenes come in the form of additional skits that are highly entertaining and flesh out more of the characters' backstories. By strengthening your bonds with your party members, who knows? You may just unlock extra spheres in the skill tree to spend more of your hard-earned points on. In addition to the cooking, a fishing minigame becomes available a dozen or so hours into the story. This fishing minigame is quite engaging as a minigame and provides a lot of incentives to catch fish, as many of the fish are vital to certain cooking recipes. There are numerous lakes, oceans, and rivers to fish in, and each of them offers unique fish to collect. There are also better rods to find, a number of lures to obtain to make catching certain fish easier, and even boss fish that demand your focus and concentration to lure these massive behemoths out of the water. Much before the fishing minigame is unlocked, Alphen and his crew have the ability to take on side quests. There are 70 side quests in the game that have the player assisting various people in need all over the game world. Such side quests require the player to clear out specific gatherings of enemies, optional boss enemies on the map, collecting certain ingredients for people craving recipes, and simply delivering packages to various people all over the game world. The quests are incredibly important to carry out because not only can they unlock more recipes, more items, and just more stuff for your character, but each side quest rewards your entire party with a lot of skill points that can be used to further upgrade your characters. It is highly advised to complete each side quest as they become available, given that you are at the appropriate character level, of course, because many of the game's side bosses through the game's side quests are intended for high-level characters that are more often achieved after the game story has been completed. Speaking of high-level activities, there is also a fighting arena located in the third region of the game, allowing your characters to test their mettle against a gauntlet of enemies in either solo or group combat. The fights on offer present a variety of challenges ranked by difficulty, with the recommended difficulty being shown to indicate if such a challenge is appropriate for your level. The higher ranked challenges reward the player with some important crafting materials and gold. Some of the game's toughest battles can be fought at the battle arena, as this level 99 gauntlet will throw everything the game has at you in a great culmination of challenge. To help you get ready for these extreme challenges, and just to make sure that your characters are in tip-top form, acquiring and crafting new weapons, armor, and accessories is a very important part of the game. Having a high level isn't necessarily the only way to progress your character in Tales of Arise. In many of the game's locations, players will come across resources that can be used to craft weapons, armor, and accessories. These craftables do wonder in making sure that your party can dish out the highest amount of damage possible while boosting your defenses and ailment resistance. Crafting can be accessed at inns by talking to the blacksmith, and can also be done at the merchant standing close to the campfires on the field. As the player progresses in the story, more desirable and rarer ingredients can be found and are used to craft new weapons and armor. so there is a very linear approach to character progression with equipment and comes quite naturally. Along with the customization of weapons, armor, and accessories, Tales of Arise also has numerous costumes that the player may equip to alter the appearance of the game's party characters. These costumes replace each of the character's default costumes, altering their appearance, which takes effect in battle, on the field, and in the game's cutscenes. This is just an extra option that the developers put in to allow players to have fun with the costumes in the game. Costumes may be obtained by completing certain side quests and by finding them as treasure on the field. I feel like I am missing some things, but honestly that's okay, because I'd rather you all give this game a chance and engage with everything the game has to offer on your own time. Tales of Arise is jam-packed full of content that both fans of the franchise and newcomers alike will absolutely enjoy. This is as quality a JRPG as it gets, as it handles everything it does very nicely. I believe Tales of Arise stands up quite nicely along Final Fantasy VII Remake and Persona 5 Royal as some of the greatest JRPGs to have come out in recent years. If you are a fan of lengthy role-playing games with a compelling cast of characters, beautiful graphics, and a world with a lot of things to see and do, well, I cannot recommend this game enough. This is hands down one of the most accessible JRPGs out there, with numerous difficulty settings that come with a slew of features and options to tweak your play experience. This entry in the Tales series marks a confident return to the formula and stands head and shoulders above its previous entries, making Tales of Arise one of the best JRPGs in recent memory, and definitely one of the biggest and most pleasant surprises of 2021.